Good morning, my name is Christel from Frans the Klerk Independent Technical Analysts. The first one on our list to discuss is Truworths, and we can see that there was a clear head and shoulder formation. I'm going to draw that for you. There's my left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder. Now the share is currently trading below that neckline, which means the warning of the head and shoulder formation has been confirmed. What is the target of the head and shoulder formation? The conservative target is the first, let's take the smallest length of the right shoulder, project it downwards, can take us to around 44 Rand 20, and the full target of the formation is the full length of the head, projected downwards from the neckline, can take us to around 32 Rand 28. When will the warning of the head and shoulder formation be off the table? When the share starts to consolidate above the highest one of the two, left or right shoulder. In this case, it's the right shoulder. I will use 60 Rand 42, the candle of the 29th of August. Above 60.42, the warning of the head and shoulder will be off the table. Very, very important. Look what the share has done. It tested the 40-week moving average on the red line, waiting at 56.01, and it could not change it into a support. That was a clear warning that, hey, there's not enough buyers to change the long-term sentiment towards Truworths to positive. Very important. For 3 weeks, the share price tested the 40-week, kept it at resistance, and retraced from it. That can be seen as a negative technical goodbye case, implying pessimism, warning, and more downside. Only when the share, as I said, it trades above 60.42, the left shoulder, will the warning formation be off the table. Look at my stochastic. Remember, the stochastic is the elastic band that highlights how overbought or oversold the levels are. In other words, you want to buy an instrument when the instrument is oversold, right? That means that elastic band has got a lot of room for expansion, and optimism will be confirmed when that blue line, the shorter moving average, starts to break upwards through the orange line, is what we call a positive divergence. You want to consider taking profit, or hopefully just taking profit, or a short should you want to trade it as a CFD when the instrument is overbought with a negative divergence, that blue line breaking downwards through the orange line, the longer moving average. Yes, we are in oversold territory. So some might say, hey, let's move closer to the graph to look for it as an opportunity to buy the share. However, look at both lines. It's still pointing downwards, implying that the overall momentum to the bottom is still in place. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, a price action formation candle speaks a lot louder than the indicator. The price action highlights what investors think about the share and their long-term view around it. These are weekly graphs, therefore every candle represents the price action of a week. We can see this strong support on Truworths at 48.07 is a very strong support. Why? For 4 weeks, the share has kept that level as support. Will there be enough buyers to change the previous resistance levels into support? We'll have to wait and see. But 48 Rand and 7 cent is a strong support that has held on Truworths. And very important, if we look back at history, it's very close to previous support levels. So if you really want to go back to late 2021, this has been a long consolidation base that Truworths have been trading in. And some investors might make use of those whipsaws to buy and sell again. But again, at 48.07, a critical level of support that needs to remain in place if you believe that the share price will bounce to higher levels. Pan Africa. One of the other requests was for Pan Africa. Huge profit taking has taken place, but very important, candles do not lie, right? And this was a beautiful example of a tweezer top. 2 consecutive candles where resistance was found at the same level, highlighting that, hey, there's not enough buyers to take us through that strong resistance, and that weighted, I'll give you that exact level, at 4 Rand 84. At 4 Rand 84, the seller said, listen, we are stronger, we are going to start to take profit, and they brought the share all the way back to around 3 Rand 35. Look at my stochastic. It's not in oversold territory yet, sitting on a 34, but both lines are still pointing downwards, implying that the overall momentum is in place. We're currently busy with this spinning candle. Why? Both tails on the candle are almost the same in length with a relatively small real body. That tells us indecision. They're not sure what they really want to do here. Last week is a clear negative Marubozu candle. I mean, it's down at 20.7% last week. So now we'll have to wait and see, all right, will the buyers be able to change that high of the week, R3.48, into a support to maybe bounce for higher levels? Or will the sellers be strong enough to take out the low of R3.10 and take the share lower? Very important. What is currently negative about this technical graph is the fact that the share is trading below its 40-week moving average, trading at R3.61. What does that say? It tells us the long-term sentiment towards this share has changed to negative. And very important, we can see in the past that this was a very important, look at that, how the share fought this 40-week moving average. It just could not change it into the support. It kept it a resistance. That tells us the importance of this moving average over 40 weeks. That highlights, is it positive around the sentiment or is it negative? So a clear R3.61 will be a very strong resistance that needs to change into a support in order to sustain the momentum to the top. We had an interesting question about Renergen. The person asked, they see a head and shoulder formation, which this is a weekly graph. We can see that this is a massive left shoulder, a head, and a false break, and maybe a right shoulder. Now, this is possible, yes. It is a very small right shoulder, and you could have maybe drawn the neckline to be like that, very skew, excuse me, with a relatively also small right shoulder, but only time will tell when this is the case. All right, so yes, I agree. This is a possible head and shoulder formation. Yes, it started in Jan 2021, so this is about 2 and a bit years old. So it can take 2 and a bit years old to play out. What is very important is this is a false break and a whipsaw, and this was also a possible double bottom. Now, a double bottom is a positive formation that implies optimism, and that would remain on the table as long as R19.79 remains a support. What is more important for me in the current state is the fact that Renergen has not managed to change that red line, the 40-week moving average, into a support. Now have a look. For 3 weeks now, the share tested the 40-week, retraced. Tested the 40-week, retraced. It could not get even close to 24.43. And that tells me there's not enough buyers that can lift the share price through the 40-week moving average. And have a look here. If we go back, we can see in early 2023, look at that ugly but beautiful example of a negative technical goodbye case. The share went, tested the 40-week, could not find enough buyers to lift that share price and change that 40-week moving average into a support, and it retraced all the way back to around the 1750 level. So at the moment, yes, the neckline for me is waiting there around R20.22. And I mean, if should this head and shoulder formation play out, it can take the share a lot lower. What I also just want to highlight here is that when you draw a left shoulder or a right shoulder, your right and left shoulder should be sitting on a neckline. I've seen people draw head and shoulder formations, but then the right shoulder is not attached to the neckline, and that is incorrect. So you have to, the shoulder has to test and touch the neckline, right, of the formation. There's my head. It touches the neckline. There's a false break, and there is my right shoulder. Okay. So if that right shoulder wants to be confirmed, it needs to go back and change that neckline into a resistance. Now, if you play with this neckline, because remember, you want to try to get as many touching points as possible. Very important. A touching point on a neckline is either the shadow, highest or lowest, or the real body, close or open, that you count. I do not count a point on a trend line if it pierces through the line or if it pierces through the real body. The more touching points you can get, the stronger the trend line. So you can play around with that trend line and count them and see how many you can get. But the fact that this possible double bottom touched my neckline about 3-4 times, 3 on a shadow and once on a real body, makes this a very strong trend line, right? On the right side of my head and shoulder formation, and on the left side you can also count there's 3 touching points as well. 2 touching points is seen as a temporarily trend line, and 3 touching points is seen as a strong trend line. Nevertheless, we've got a small right shoulder here. Time will tell. For me, the strong resistance on Renergen that needs to change into a support is 24.43. That is where that 40-week moving average is waiting. And then, as I said, that strong neckline has to remain a support at around 20 Rand. 20 Rand 22 is the strong neckline that needs to remain a support and not change into a resistance. My stochastic is sitting on a 67. Both lines are still pointing upwards. For me, the price action in the candles weighs heavier at the moment, and the fact that that 40-week moving average have not changed into a support yet.